Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Rockwood, and this is the PureDriven podcast. I'm joined again here with Christopher Swanson, the CEO of PureDriven. Chris, how are we doing?
I'm doing awesome, Steve, and it's just a wonderful day. As we always say, great day at PureDriven.
It's a great day at PureDriven, and today we are going to talk about cross-platform marketing, or in simpler terms, why you should be using more than one platform or product across your marketing and not just focusing on one piece. So that being said, I'm going to let Chris start this one. Why is this important? Why should we use cross-platform marketing? What does this do for us?
Well, I love, Steve, you throw these topics at me, and they're powerful topics. They're always topics that are being discussed amongst people in the industry who really understand kind of the issues that we are faced with. Digital and social marketing, as we know, is very complex. Active management and actually running and doing these things over and over again can become very hard. It's very manual. The thing that's important to understand is that if you don't have cross-platform, and what we mean by that is if you're not carrying your advertising and your content across a Twitter, across Facebook, across a paid search campaign, you really stand the chance of hurting yourself in a big way. And I think a lot of digital marketers understand this concept in general, but now the other side of this is if you're a franchise or franchisee, or you're just a corporate multi-location type environment, very important that you understand why it's valuable to hit multiple platforms. And one of the things we've learned through the years is the more platforms that you're running across, the more chance of success you have. And if you're actively managing that campaign, which in our world means you're making adjustments, you're reviewing statistics, you're looking at the analytics, what's gonna happen is you're gonna start to notice trends under certain channels. And those channels give you a lot more insight, and you can always spend a little more money. You can increase the budget that you have in those areas, and you're going to get more success from that. But these different channels all complement each other. You know, it feels like each one of them has a very unique function within the marketing ecosystem, if that makes sense. And so it's important that you look at those different advertising platforms. We personally love when there's competitive platforms. I would love to see competition to Facebook in a big way, because I think what it does for people is they start to get a feel for what works in their marketplace. You get a feel for what is more easy to use or simpler to use, and what's going to give you a better result. So competition's healthy, as they always say, and it really is great for us as digital and social marketers, because what can happen then is we can see what works, what demographics engaged, what info, psychographic, what other things are going to bring that person into my physical location.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, one thing we've noticed is when new platforms do come out, a lot of people will wait to actually try and use them to see if their demographics there. But the longer you wait, the more expensive it is to actually get into that platform. Because with social, when there's not a lot of people using it, there's a much higher chance that people are going to find you on there and they're going to follow you for free on the organic side. But when a platform releases an advertising platform, they start the price way lower than it ends up being. At one point, I was getting 1 cent per click on Instagram on a very targeted campaign when they first started. And now we're not much higher than that, but we're definitely higher than 1 cent
Right.
per click. So I think a lot of companies, if they do have that ability to try things when they come out and they think that their demographic might be there, I think they really should be attempting these, because you get stuff way cheaper and you get the chance of becoming one of the bigger players on there when it's early, when it's not oversaturated already. Does that make sense?
It does. I think what you're trying to say is that we've noted this healthy understanding of a platform, of a channel, gives you an opportunity when that advertising platform comes out to actually do really well. But clearly each one of these channels is built in a way where initially they're doing things at less cost. And then, of course, as there's different take rates and engagement, and as they say, less advertising room, basically you're now looking at a situation where they increase that cost. And so early on, it's easy to get involved and actually have some good success with different channels. Here's the problem, though, we find so often is that their analytical information, their metrics and everything else are usually pretty primitive when they first start out. And so you get in this situation, for us in particular, we active manage everything. So we're always looking for how do we know what's working and what's not? Well, it requires us to either drive somebody to a URL where we can track that through analytics, or it requires us to use the analytics within that platform or the metrics within that within that channel. And so now you get in a situation where if it's not good, if it's primitive, you're kind of guessing a little bit.
Yep.
And so we always are watching that, kind of, we call it the beta, and we're, when's it going to actually get better? Yep. And you're always talking to the clients about and saying, hey, this might be a fit for you. Sometimes you'll test that early on with some clients that are saying, yeah, that might make sense because of my demographic, my psychographic. And if you have success with it, great. Of course, if you don't have success, be prepared for the customer to say, I'm not happy with you now because I didn't see what I wanted to see. And so that's always kind of that, that tightrope that we walk, Steve.
Yep. Yeah, we had our Snapchat in the beta phase for about 3 months here at PureDriven, and right now we have about 6 Waze tests going on. So we do wait a little bit and we test stuff out. First, we always test with PureDriven brand, then some friends in the area maybe, and then we go to actual clients. Usually we'll pay the ad spend for them and just say, hey, if you try this out so we can look at the analytics, that'd be sweet. We'll pay it and we'll have the active management done for you. And that's pretty much how we do the R&D here at PureDriven. So
I think it's important to point out too, as you look at cross channels, the different advertising. We see so often that we can be competitively putting out, say, a Pandora and Spotify is my example that I'll use.
Yep. And
in one market, Pandora will really do well, and in another market, Spotify does really well.
Yep.
And there's sometimes no rhyme or reason to that. The assumption right away to some of you folks who know these products and know how to advertise on them is, oh, yeah, that's because Pandora's getting older and it's aging out. Well, the truth of the matter is we've seen in situations that's not the case. If you're in a rural market, for example, versus urban, that can change.
Yep.
There's so many different parameters, which is why, again, that whole active management thing is so important as you're looking at the analytics, what's engaging people, let's make these adjustments and changes, including changing channels and saying, I'm not going to be doing this particular, I might not be using Snapchat anymore because I'm not seeing the success from it, even though I know somebody else that owns the same, maybe it's a franchise, they have the same kind of retail store, but different markets, and they had so much success, and then they don't have success, and they're like, well, why am I not having success? And the answer is, you're in a different market, and it changes all the time.
Yep, I ran a Snapchat campaign for someone for a month, and I told them, you're just not in the right market. They were in a retired area in Florida, and it was almost impossible to spend their ad spend because there were so few people that use Snapchat in their area. It was incredible.
Hats off to you for giving that a shot. I'm guessing there's a backstory that the client was pushing you because they'd heard that there was success.
They were actually the first of their franchise brand to do it. They were pushing super hard against their franchisor's judgment, but they said, hey, if you want to try it, go for it. And they tried it out as a beta.
It didn't work.
It was not good.
But meanwhile, we've had so much success with
we've
different
had
places.
So much success.
Snapchat.
Yeah, our Snapchat's probably actually the hero of our 2018 here as far as results and just as a product in general. It's been really good.
So I mean, it's all things to take into consideration. Is you are a marketer representing your brand, or if you're listening to this podcast and you're the franchisee, or you're maybe a general manager of a corporate location, understand that it's really important that you place ads across content across multiple channels. That becomes hard, it becomes complex. We know that. We run into this all the time. You have to stay on top of it. You have to actively manage it. You have to consistently post. That will lead to great results because you will understand what adjustments you need to make. As long as you're reviewing those things and making those adjustments, Steve, you're going to have a lot of success.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last little piece I want to touch on there is when you're doing cross-marketing platforms, you can kind of link them together, especially when you're doing something like display retargeting on Google, is if someone clicks on a Facebook ad that's really focused on a certain topic, you want to bring them to a page that's about that topic, but then you also want your retargeting ads to reflect that topic. So there's a lot of kind of cross-promotional things you do, but they're all in the same stream, right? They're all going down the same the same river. There we go.
Yeah,
marketing river.
No, I like that. What we have found, Steve, on that particular issue is keep it simple.
Yep.
So often we start seeing multiple messages across many channels, and it becomes very complicated and complex. And I get that some of your businesses don't let you stay as simple as you'd want. Sometimes you're dealing like with e-commerce stuff and you're having products that you have to show in different, across different platforms and things like that. But always ask yourself, is this going to create a problem in the future, and can I keep it simple? And that way you won't have as much brain drain on your life and your managing of work as you're going along. But you'll also feel pretty rewarded, because if you keep it simple, it's easier to understand the results. And so I just always tell people, try to simplify things. Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Yeah, definitely. And just don't choose too many platforms and stretch yourself too thin in the beginning. And really with the active management piece, if you find that something is working really well but you can't keep up with it, that's when you go to an agency or you hire someone internally to start doing that. Because if you know something's working but you're not going to be able to upkeep it, obviously you want to have someone else do it for you, right?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, we are obviously in that business, and full disclosure. But I can tell you that the success we see is consistency.
Yep.
9/10 of the issue is, are you doing the things you need to do over and over and over again? That's how you gain success in using digital and social marketing to drive business into your store.
Yeah, and then my final tidbit there is, even as an agency, we love when our clients are still participating in their platforms. Like, we love when they're taking the photos and posting photos, and when they're getting excited about it, because it makes us excited. And then each month when we talk to our client about how their store is doing, they're much more engaged with their actual marketing and the store, and not just us telling us how their marketing is doing and then just having the stats from their store. We have like this excitement on the call. It's more fun.
It is. It is fun, and that's that process that you want to go through, that proven process that you want to develop. And what happens again on that is simply participation by whoever the management of the store is, and that can be simply taking photos. That can be a lot of different things, but it doesn't have to be a lot of things. It's kind of like dealing with your financial manager or financial planner. At some point, they're really good at the overall picture of what needs to happen. But you might take on something yourself, or you might say, hey, here's a stock that I want to have purchased.
Yep.
At the end of the day, their different IRAs or whatever are going to help you, because overall it keeps you pretty consistent in the marketplace. That's what we do. We keep you consistent. We help you. We guide you along. We keep the platforms, the channels actively managed. You come alongside and do a few things that you enjoy, that you like to do, that kind of adds that flavor, that sizzle to the campaign. And that's going to create an opportunity for you to have a lot of success.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for joining me, Chris. And make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast. And we will see you next time. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you letting me on the podcast. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Yeah, have a good one, everybody.